Hey y'all, how are you doing today? Let's just be southern for like a minute or so. Anyway, y'all know I'm crazy. You know this. Anyway, so I want to talk to you about a lady that I have a lot of respect for. She's super smart, and her name is Dr. G. Some of you may know who I'm talking about, some of you may not know. She's a world renowned, famous uh doctor, and she finds out why you died. If nobody else knows, she's gonna know, and if she doesn't know, she'll find out. Usually, although there are some rare instances where she cannot figure it out, but that's rare. She's pretty on the ball. um, so I've seen a couple of her autopsies, and I've seen some autopsies in person. And I quickly discovered that sights don't bother me, but powerful smells can make me want to gag. So the first one I saw wasn't that bad. I was in EMT school at the time, and I don't learn by looking at books and having someone tell me and tell me and tell me. I learn by seeing with my own eyes, and preferably in person, and physically doing the exercise or whatever it is that I need to do. I learn better that way. You could talk to me all day, and after a while, it just sounds like Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. You know what I mean? I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to witness it. I want to see it in a different format other than in a book. And the book is totally misrepresenting anyway, because it shows that your lungs are the same size when in reality they're not. Any anatomy book that you see, you will see the lungs look identical, and they're not. Okay, your lung on the left side is a lot smaller so that it can. Which one is smaller? I believe the one on the I'm trying to remember. The one on the left is a lot smaller because it's trying to accommodate your heart. So it just doesn't depict the real deal. So I wanted to see autopsy so I can actually witness with my own eyes the anatomy, which helps it sink into my head better. And there's the typical Y incision, both shoulders down the abdomen, and there's this bright yellow that you'll see right away, and that's everyone has body fat. So that's what that is. And because I was like, what is that? when I was green and I was learning, they're like, oh, that's body fat. Everybody has that. Oh, interesting. Dr. G also talked about her full name is Dr. Garavaglia, but most people are not going to be able to say that, or they're too lazy to try to pronounce it. So everybody calls her Dr. G. The show calls her Dr. G. She said that for people who are extremely obese, it's real hard to do autopsies on them because she has to cut through, like, how much did she say? Almost a foot of fat in some cases. And she said, and I don't want to cut myself with the scalpel because it's slippery. So that's real hard. That's really hard for her. So one of the autopsies that stands out in my mind that she did was this young lady died, and she had these pinpoint red marks all over her entire body. And what had happened was, and it took a while to get to the cause of death, what had happened was she had met this guy in a bar, and he kissed her, and when he kissed her, he bit her lip. When he bit her lip, he introduced a virus into her system. She never received treatment for it. It got worse and worse and worse, and it killed her. So basically, she had herpes, and it was all over her entire body. Untreated STDs can take you out of here. Untreated STDs can make you blind. I know that I was a teacher back in the day, and one of my students was very angry and very aggressive, and me and him did not get along. He was just going to take his anger out on whoever. And I think I found out from another teacher that his mom she had syphilis. She never got treated for it. She went blind and she eventually died. So yes, if there's no treatment, then there's going to be serious problems and potentially death. There was another, I'm trying to think of the ones that stand out. I've seen so many because I'm like a junkie for her. I love Dr. G. Let me think. There was a lady that they weren't sure if she committed suicide or if she died of natural causes. They had no idea. Her husband had died a year and a half prior. So her family was concerned. She, bottomed out and depressed. She got depressed and everything. And she was feeling really tired. Well, let me backtrack. Her son and the grandkids came to visit so they could kind of, have family time with her and cheer her up and make her feel better. And she was feeling really weak and tired that night, and she went to bed early, and she never woke up. So Dr. G did examine from head to toe. Just could not. There was nothing that she saw that was obvious, so she had to wait for a tox screen, which is basically a toxicology report. Because everything, she was 69 years old. She looked very good for her age. She looked quite healthy for her age, as in skin, like everything looked fine. Her organs looked perfectly fine. When they were dissected, they looked perfectly fine. And then she noticed that she'd had a small stroke, and she had issues with the vessels in her heart. And then basically she had a heart condition that nobody knew about. She didn't know about. She was asymptomatic, which means you have no symptoms. And the vessels they were shrinking down in size. There were some kind of issue with the vessels, and they shrink down in size, which will cause a snowball effect. You've got a severe decrease of oxygen going to the heart, and then you have muscle tissue that dies and keeps dying, and before you know it, the person eventually dies. So the family was relieved that, she didn't take herself out, because they were really concerned about that. Really, really concerned that that's what she was going to end up doing. Another story that I just saw recently, the guy had, he had a massive argument with his girlfriend, and he left for a while so he can cool off. And when he came back, she was on the floor dead. So naturally that looks bad, and like, you all had an argument and she's dead. Really? So Dr. G, there didn't seem to be any obvious cause of death. And Dr. G discovered that she had serious heart problems. Serious heart problems. She was also quite obese. And I think there was like almost a foot of fat she had to cut through, or something similar to that. It was a massive amount of fatty tissue that she had to, before she could even get to the organs. So that was her cause of death. She saw that her heart was enlarged, and she's like, oh, sometimes it's that obvious. Like, okay, this isn't normal. And then other times everything appears to be perfectly fine, and it's not. It's just not. There was another one where the guy was, if you can't handle talking about body things and body functions gross you out, you probably want to check off this video. All right, this is factual. This is what happened. It was preventable. Okay, quite preventable. The guy looked, well, he was in his 30s, good looking guy. He got separated from his wife and his daughter, and he didn't, he was struggling to get time with his daughter. And he bottomed out emotionally. I mean, he just plummeted. He didn't care about anything anymore. And he laid in bed. He could barely function because he was laying in bed. Stayed in bed. To the point where he had bed sores on his bottom. He had bed sores. And another thing that Dr. G was blown away by was the fact that he was wearing a diaper. When she undressed him, here he is, an adult wearing a diaper, and she's like, what the hell? I mean, she didn't say what the hell, but that's basically a look on her face like, okay, this isn't a normal thing, especially for a guy of his age. So she did the typical Y incision, and when she cut open his abdomen, it was quite clear what was going on with him. The smell alone was enough to almost knock everybody down, okay? And for Dr. G to give you a clue of how bad it was, she said, I've got a guy over here that's decaying, and this guy smells worse. And I was like, oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that's bad. And let me go backwards for a minute. When I saw two autopsies, and the second one was more than enough for me. I was done because he had been dead longer, and he was ripe, and the smell kind of hit you in the back of the throat. And so I stood there, and I looked the distance from where I was to the bathroom just in case. Okay. But this guy was just. Everybody was professional, but you could just tell that Dr. G was like, what in the hell is going on here? So what had happened was his intestinal tract had swelled. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And he had enough waste in his intestine that it was the size of a football. He wouldn't go to the bathroom. He just, and that's obviously, it's got to be very painful. Very, 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 very debilitating. But his emotional state, Dr. G said his emotional state was even more debilitating than the pain. Like the mental, the psychological pain overrode the physical agony. And what had happened was, at this point, obviously these toxins are building up in the system, and the size of a football, oh my God, just unimaginable. And she did a tox screen on him and found out that E. coli had built up in his system to the point where it had seeped out of his intestinal tract and had made it to his blood vessels and was basically being transported through his whole body, and that's what caused him to die. Wow. I wouldn't want to. You couldn't pay me to want to smell that. Okay, sure. She didn't want. None of them wanted to smell it, but they had to figure out what the heck's going on with this guy. Another thing, and I'm gonna backtrack for a second. Y'all know I'm notorious for this. She was shocked at his appearance when he was on the table. Before she even opened him up, she was shocked at his appearance because he was wasting. She thought he had AIDS. He wasn't eating, he wasn't drinking, he wouldn't get out of bed. He wasn't taking care of himself whatsoever. And I apparently never told his sister what was going on with him, with his severe abdominal pain. Probably did not care enough to go to the doctor or anything like that. And he was wasting away. And Dr. G was looking at him, and she goes, I wouldn't be surprised if he has AIDS. And the tox screen came back negative for that, but it came, positive, came back positive for exponentially high levels of E. coli in his system. So that was insane. Preventable. Obviously, the psychological depression and anxiety would have to be treated first, but a person gets so low that they just don't care about anything, and they basically lose the will to do anything. They lose the will to even live. So, and that's sad, because now he can't, get back with his wife, or at least have a civil communication with her to where he could, he would be able to see his daughter, or whatever the case is. So that's kind of sad. That's, preventable. The parents could have worked it out somehow. Even if you're not going to get back together, you have a daughter, you know what I mean? So whatever you do impacts her. Like I said, the second autopsy that I saw, the first one wasn't that bad. I got to hold the guy's brain in my hand, and I was holding it like this. And I kind of pressed it, and the blood went separated and came back. And I said to the young lady, she was in EMT school also with me. She was my classmate. And I said, "Look at this. This is so cool." She's like, "Yeah, I see it. I'm good." She was nowhere near as excited as I was. I got to see the vessels in the heart. They're basically white. They look like almost like white strings. And the doctor at the time, pathologist, said, "Do you want to cut?" And I was like, okay. So they weigh the organs, and I had the little scalpel, and I'm cutting really gently, and he goes, he doesn't feel it. I mean, I was cutting it real gentle, and he's like, "Yeah, he don't feel that." So it was kind of funny because he had put a cloth over his groin area. Well, the cloth had moved a little bit, and I'm like, Miss Curious, I want to know everything. So I see this bubble on his thigh. And so I don't move the cloth discreetly. I just lift it up and go, "What's that?" And I'm pointing to the thing on his leg. And he goes, "I don't know what that is." I'm like, "Oh." And then he, at one point, obviously Y incision the whole bit, and he's elbow deep in the guy, okay? And he's feeling around, and he goes, "What the hell is this?" And I got a look on my face like, "Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know." He gets to see, surgery, oopses, accidents. I think part of his intestine was attached to his abdominal wall. Somebody screwed up somehow with that. I can only imagine what he sees. Oh, wow. Yeah. It was interesting. It was really interesting. I wouldn't mind working at a funeral home. I wouldn't mind doing hair and makeup for the person. That would be kind of neat. But I don't know anything about the makeup, right? It's not this, obviously not the same type of makeup that we use. Right. So it's, that's a whole new, that's like a special training in itself to learn all about, the makeups and everything. Cause that's just, it's more complicated than you would think. But yeah, it was interesting. It was fascinating. I love Dr. G. She's the bomb.com. There's another guy who is a famous pathologist for celebrities. I can't think of his name right now. His hair is real short, handsome guy. And I can't remember his name, but y'all may have seen him on TV. So I'm going to do, according to Dr. G, these are the top 5 reasons why people die. Top 5 reasons. Okay? Don't shoot the messenger, okay? This is from Dr. G. I wrote it down so I could share it with you. Number 5 would be toxins, because of toxins. One guy got his electricity cut off, so he hooked up a generator, and he ended up, had extension cords and the whole bit, and he had a generator for whatever, electricity or whatever he was using it for. and he died in his sleep. And they found out that it was leaking out, or it was, I guess it's normal for it to have carbon monoxide emanate from it. So you're supposed to use it in an open area that is ventilated, not inside your home. And he died in his sleep. And Dr. G is so freaking good. When she did the Y incision and she looked at his muscles, she was going, his muscles have a pink tinge to them. That's indicative of carbon monoxide poisoning. But wasn't he in his house? So she called the cops, and she had them go over there and find out what was going on. And they said, oh, they found the generator. And again, you're not supposed to use that in an enclosed area. So he died of carbon monoxide poisoning. So again, toxins. Okay. Number 4 reason why people die is because of microbial infections. Okay. So that could be bacterial, that could be a virus, anything of that nature. And when I was in school, they taught us that a black widow spider bite has a 5% fatality rate. I don't know if that's still the same as it was back then, but we were taught that there's a 5% fatality rate with that. Yeah. I was thinking about that other guy. Huh. Okay. Number 3 is going to be alcohol abuse. Alcoholism. Another reason for people to die. There was a guy on there that the wife, they finally got a divorce, but they were still friends. And then he came into some money. And so they were going to go on a cruise. Well, when they were at the hotel, he said he was cold, and he went ahead and took a bath to warm up, and he died. He freaking died. And he had supposedly was clean of alcohol, and then he started drinking it again, and then it triggered, he started trembling, and whatever chain reaction was going on in his body, it caused him to die. I don't remember all the specifics of that. I might have to watch that again. But they were skirting around the fact that he was an alcoholic. And the wife said it's because of this and that, and, he couldn't hold a job and all this other, but she forgot to mention that he was also an alcoholic. And he had 1 beer that night. And that was enough. His body said, that's it, I'm done. So he died of alcohol. I guess it was alcohol poisoning, I believe. Yeah. Like I said, I have to watch that one again because I don't remember the specifics, but I know that he had an adverse reaction when he drank that alcohol because he supposedly was clean for a while, and he had 1 beer, supposedly had 1 beer, and that was enough, and he did not survive. So alcoholism. And 1, 2, 3. The 4th, another reason why people die is obesity. Obesity is another reason why people die. So that's cause number 2. And the number 1 reason, like I said, don't shoot the messenger. The number 1 reason why Dr. G sees people in her morgue, smoking. Smoking. My friend knows of a lady who has severe heart problems. She has a pacemaker. She's exhausted all the time because her blood pressure is extremely low. And she has seen specialists, and she has done this and that and the other, and this medicine and that medicine. And like I said, she's got a pacemaker. She's always exhausted. She's always worn out. You could tell by looking at her that she's just plumb worn out. And she smokes. She smokes. Why, I don't know, but she does. It's almost like you're flipping the bird to death. Like, yeah, take me if you can. I dare you. You may get your wish one day. And a lot of people, they are enabling, so they will defend the person who is addicted. And you're basically a drug addict. You're addicted to nicotine. They're addicted. You don't know how addiction works. I know very well, and I'm very well versed on how addiction works. I've dealt with people with drug addictions. I've dealt with my best friend's husband. At the time, he was an alcoholic. I'm familiar with all of that. And I also know that you were not an addict until you started. Nobody wants to talk about that part. You weren't an addict until you started. You chose to start. Like if I chose to jump in front of a train, and I lost half of my body, I can't really blame the train. I jumped in front of it. Okay. So, and when you're on the receiving end of the abuse, the receiving end of the person who is lying and tricking and stealing money out of your wallet and, manipulating the whole family and stressing out grandma and stressing out the parents and this and arguments in the family and the whole, it's a chain reaction of chaos and confusion and madness. And like I said, they weren't like that until they started. And there's always, let me tell you something. And I don't care who gets mad. You know how I am. I don't care. There's always somebody in the family who's an enabler. Did I go there? Yes, I did. There's always somebody in the family who is an enabler. They know this person has a gambling addiction or smoking addiction or drug addiction, and they will give them money. Here, get yourself something to eat. Daggone well, they're not going to get nothing to eat with that money. They're going to get high again. I mean, somebody always enables. Always, always. That is the reason why when they do interventions, they treat the entire family. Because it's not just that person who's affected, the entire family is affected. The entire family becomes sick also. And they lie. And they call the person's job. He can't make it because he's got the flu or this or that, knowing damn well that is not what's going on. People will enable. I know of one, I don't know him personally. I saw him on A&E. He had a gambling addiction. His parents pay all his bills. They pay for the dog food. They give him money for gambling and everything else until intervention got involved. A&E got involved. And they said, the money stops today. He has to go to therapy today. He has to go to rehab today, right now, or the money stops. The money stops. Which the money should stop anyway, because it's not going, you're paying for his bills and you're giving him money to gamble. So obviously that's helping the person stay addicted. You know what I mean? So the whole family ends up being treated, and there's a reason for that. So, yeah. So anyway, I hope you guys are good. And I do believe, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I do believe that stress management needs to be taught in high school so that we can reduce the chance of escapism through drugs, through alcohol, through gambling, through whatever it is, cigarettes or whatever it is that people use to not face what's tearing them apart. We need better we need courses on stress management. My son is asleep. We wore him out today real good. He's worn slick, which is a beautiful thing. Anyway, so yeah, there needs to be some courses on stress management for sure. For sure, because escapism never works. It just causes more hell and damnation, not just for that person, but for all the people that care about them. So, anyway, you guys take care. Much love, and try not to end up in Dr. G's morgue. She's in Orlando, Florida. Be careful. Y'all be good. Take care. Much love. Be safe.